Alright guys, on my way to the International Sportsman Exposition in Sacramento for Sunday, the last day of the event. I had a seminar on Friday, I got a seminar today, all day yesterday I was hanging out at the BWA booth. Now I'm fighting like some allergies and a head cold, but we're gonna get there, we're gonna get it done. I'll let you guys meet some fans, talk about a little stuff at the booths, and we'll see if we can capture my seminar. I know there's rules on it, but if not, I'll basically do the same seminar for you guys here to watch. That way it's not the exact same thing, so we're not breaking any rules, but let's get going. Miles and Gavin, right on. What are you gonna have me sign, guys? Some lipless crankbaits? Sick. All right, guys, let's go for a little bit of a walk before it gets crazy. All right, Ryan, we'll be back. There's Mickey Daniels, probably seen him in an episode before. Morning, Mickey. Sep Hendrickson.
How you doing, dude?
Morning, Sep. Kent, say good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, 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 good.
Cage snap. Next big thing in bass fishing.
Yeah? All right, guys, we found a couple more fans this morning.
Yeah.
You guys want to get hooked up?
Yeah, sure.
Check it out. You guys watch Lucky Tackle Box stuff, right?
Oh yeah, we just got his
Monster
yesterday.
Bass hook you up. You know you got that one right there, right?
Yeah.
Use the other one. You can put that one on your wall, dude.
Oh, dude, thanks.
You're welcome,
Sweet,
dude.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
Joey Gomez and Joey Gomez Jr.
What's up?
Say good morning, fellas. I'm actually
morning.
doing like a vlog thing for once
Good morning.
because everybody says I'm too lazy to do vlogs.
Yes, you are.
Sturgeon King, smaller Sturgeon King. Smaller for now, but I think he's gonna outgrow Dad.
We got a Carp King.
Oh, you the Carp King, Adrian? P-line, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
The newer of all the P-line guys. Thomas is the only one that's not Italiano or doesn't have the name Don.
Yeah, now there's two of us.
Now there's two of you. Dude, the new tactical fluorocarbon, guys, if you haven't checked this out, this is a more limp fluorocarbon. It has a little bit more stretch. Most people's problems with fluorocarbon was the stiffness. This is addressing that issue. If you're using reaction baits, casting far, need stuff, throwing lighter stuff, and you want that line to be more limber, that's your deal. Otherwise, if you're doing some heavy flipping and things like that, still use the 100% fluorocarbon, but this is going to fix those previous issues. The Delta Dance booth. What do you have up here? The Evolution baits, grass burners. I'm sure you guys have seen on the show plenty of times catching hundreds of fish. At the Bass Angler Magazine booth, we got Mike Coleman and Mark Lassane. Just this morning, two fans were reminding me about the guy who hooked me in the side of the head in 40-degree weather at Lake Orville. The famous, infamous, dude, it was 40. It was first thing in the morning, we were freezing.
Well, if you weren't as tall as a giraffe, that wouldn't have happened. I mean, you got too damn close, you know? And
When you have a guy of Mark Lassane's level and he sticks you in the dome, that's on him. That ain't my fault. That's on
I'm used to
him.
guys like you in the back of the boat. So, you know, I didn't realize that you were going to be right next to me.
So Mark did a seminar on how to fish a Senko, and you guys wouldn't believe it, but the police didn't even show up. If you're not subscribed to Bass Angler Magazine, you should be. I know, that's not me on the front. That's on Mark. That's on Mark. I told him I'd put on a bikini too, if Mark wanted to do that. But dude, you're talking the single best articles in regards to a bass fishing magazine. More articles than any other. Dude, it's a better price too, right, Mark? And this is a quarterly magazine, right?
Yep, 20 bucks for a year. You get 4 issues, 30 articles in every issue. You can't go wrong. You want to catch some more fish.
Yep.
You need to get yourself a Fast Angler magazine.
Do it, guys. Every now and then I'm featured in this magazine, and stuff that I don't even have time to talk about in films, really elaborate stuff. Mark loves to put that information in there. So if you're trying to step your game up, get that magazine. We got my buddy Jason Borofka up on the tank. I got my seminar at 11:30. What's up, Jason? In case you guys don't remember Jason, we did the San Pablo Reservoir episode where I caught the 10-7 on the A-rig. Let's see which one I caught on Friday. It wasn't that. It was bigger than these. It was bigger than these. It was one of these. Which one do I want? I want that one at 11:30. That's 13, 14 pound bass right there.
I don't know. We'll get through it.
Bigger.
It's not so bad. One more day we can do all the fish here in the tank. Courtesy of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
There's Scott Strain's butt. What's up, Scott?
Look, guys, it's it. The informative fisherman.
Let's add some pressure.
We're gonna add some pressure. Are we live?
No, this isn't live, but go ahead, Ken.
We're just videoing. Hey, do you guys have YouTube? You guys know who Nick is?
Oh, that's sad. I was going to give you a lure.
I'm going to give you a lure because you don't know who Nick is. That's even better.
All right. I'm with my man Brad right here in the B-Wah booth.
What's up, guys?
Big fan of the show.
Hell yeah.
On behalf of Lucky Tackle Box, thanks for watching the show, Brad.
Oh, man, thank you, guys.
Well, thanks for watching, Edgar. I'm going to hook you up, bro. Monster Bass Jerkbait, courtesy of Lucky Tackle Box and B-Wah. We're in the B-Wah booth today. Thank you. Appreciate you watching, bro. Thank you. All right, guys. They're calling me up to the tank. It's time to get up there. It's time to go try to catch some fish for you guys. Now, technically, I am not allowed to record and show you guys the seminar. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get up to the tank and I'll shut this off, and then I'll do the seminar personally for you guys, insert it into here, and then we'll come back to the show to do the end. That way we're not breaking any rules.
We can hang out together, and we actually do a lot of stuff.
All right, guys, real quick, I wanted to address something while I'm filming with the GoPro. My mother, who watches my kids, shattered her knee on the first day headed to the ISE show. So my father, who's the videographer for the show, he wasn't there to film, so I decided to grab the GoPro and walk around. I know it's real shaky like the Blair Witch Project. I have essential tremors, so my hands shake a lot, in case you're ever wondering what that was. But he will be filming a bunch more upcoming stuff, and once my mom gets better, it'll be a lot easier. And he doesn't have to help her out as much, so that's kind of why I'm doing like a little video log here, a vlog. So a little bit different. What I wanted to talk about is what I was going over in the seminar. So the things I went over is a theory called, which I like to call the French fry versus the double whopper. So I'm gonna cover that. And then another theory that I like to call, it's not really theory, I mean, it's all based on results, and you know, I don't like to use the word fact when it comes to fishing. That's like saying you have to do this at a certain time to get something to work. And no matter how much you have fishing perfected, there's always going to be multiple things that work that day, or multiple things that don't work and something else is going to work. And there's never really a set rule. There's always just a good idea. That being said, let's start off with the French fry versus the double whopper. And you've probably heard the term big baits catch big fish. Well, I want you to think about this, for example. You look at this big giant B-Wah 7. This is what I was throwing up on the tank, and I caught a couple of big fish with that. I'll show you the pictures here. And I also threw this little tiny B-Wah Ultra Hog on a little 1/4 ounce ball head jig, like a little Ned rig here. Now, why in the world would someone throw a big bait and then someone throw a small bait? I want you to think about this. Let's say you have a lake and there's, I'm just gonna throw out a random number, there's 1,000 bass in that lake. Well, let's say there's only 100 of them over 5 pounds. Well, maybe this appeals to those 100 that are over 5 pounds, where something like this appeals to all 1,000 of those bass. So if I fish this all day and this all day, how many more, which rig is gonna catch more fish? Clearly, the French fry is going to catch more fish than the double whopper. But at the same time, I want you to think about this, for example. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'6", I'm just under 240. let's say, for example, it's me walking into Burger King, and the counter's 100 feet from me, and they said, hey, Nick, we got a free French fry and a free double Whopper. And they set these both on the counter. Which one do you think I'm going to gravitate towards? Right? Big dude, big meal. Now, that doesn't mean I won't eat a French fry if you toss it to me or it lands right on my nose and I happen to be hungry, or it was such an opportunity, it landed right there, I picked it up and I ate it. But I'm going to make the initiative to go get the double Whopper. Let's say you miss me with that French fry by 5 feet. I am not going to get up out of my chair and go pick up a French fry. But if you miss me by 5 feet with a double Whopper and I'm hungry and I'm a big dude and this appeals to me, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go get it. So a lot of people attempt throwing big baits the whole day and they go, dude, I never even got a bite. Well, you know what? You may have not even passed that many fish that something this big appeals to throughout the day. But let's say you threw this all day and you caught a bunch of small ones and you never caught a big fish and you're like, man, I didn't get one big fish that day. The smaller fish are faster than the big fish. They're usually going to beat them to it. That doesn't mean, and I'll tell you when you can catch a big fish on a French fry, but you got to understand that sometimes to get that big fish to go, you may have missed him by 5 or 6 feet. But if you were throwing a big bait, it may have appealed and he wanted the double Whopper at that time. You also have to understand a big fish makes the opportunity to eat a big meal and is held over longer, where a little fish eats more often throughout the day in smaller meals. So let's say you go to your prime spot early that morning. You've got bit there before, you've caught big fish there. How many of you guys have not returned to that same exact spot later on in the day? We've all done it. I'm guilty of this. You have to return, let's say that morning, 6 a.m., that fish ate a bluegill or ate a crawfish, and you came there at 7 a.m. and threw a bait to that fish. Well, let's say you didn't cause the fish to react. Let's say it was just swimming by and the fish said, oh, dude, I'm hungry. Well, if you would have maybe came back at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that fish may have been a little bit more hungry and his strike zone may have been a little bit larger, and you passed him within a foot and he said, well, that's my opportunity to eat that big bait. So return to your spots and understand a big meal appeals to a bigger fish. The smaller meal appeals to more fish, but you can still catch a big fish if the French fry lands in his lap or you toss it in his hand. But a lot of the time the big one does not want to make the effort to go get a French fry. It needs to sit in front of them like a drop shot. It needs to sit in front of them and work there real slow to get that big fish to eat it. So that is the French fry versus the double Whopper. Now I want to talk a little bit about the strike zone and the kill zone. These are two different things. I'm sure you've heard of a fish's strike zone. You need to spend more time in the strike zone. Well, what is the strike zone? It's the zone, it's an area around the fish. A bass has a lateral line. They feel, they see, they hear, and they smell. The smell is about the least important scent for a bass, smallmouth, spotted bass, largemouth. Sight and feel are much more important to these fish. Now, that being said, if it's a high pressure day, there's not a cloud in the sky, the sun's out, it's during the warmer months of the year, the pressure is going to be higher. And what I want you to think of pressure like, let's say, I don't care who you are, let's say you have a backpack and it has 100 pounds in it. When it's clear and sunny out, you are wearing that backpack with 100 pounds. You are less likely to run after something to chase it. I'm jogging by with a cheeseburger, you're like, ah, man, I don't know if I want to run and get it. But if I'm walking by with a cheeseburger and I'm like, ah, well, you're going to reach out and you're going to snag it at that point. So understand the strike zone is smaller on a high pressure day. Let's say it's prefrontal, the day before a storm, or it's even raining, it just started raining. The pressure's super low. You just drop that backpack with 100 pounds. Now if I'm running by with a hamburger, you're like, oh, all right, I'm gonna catch up and I'm gonna grab that hamburger. Thanks, Nick. Okay, so you gotta understand that low pressure, that strike zone's gonna be bigger. You know, if you're moving a bait through the middle of the water column, you're working a top water like the grass burner here, they're much more likely to run it down and get it. The pressure is always lower in the morning and lower in the evening. This is why, and light's lower, the shadows are longer. This is why those are key times often to be throwing a moving bait and catch those fish. So that strike zone, that's according to the pressure. You don't need a barometer. You can feel it outside. You can walk outside. If it's cloudy, overcast, the barometer's low, or if it's raining, the barometer's all the way down. If it's clear, bright, sunny day, the barometer's it's high. You got a high pressure situation. Now, the contrary to that is wintertime on a bluebird sky day. The sun's farther away. It's wintertime. Bluebird sky days, the pressure is still not that high, and it does warm the water. So the bass are more likely to eat but not chase in the wintertime on a bluebird sky day. But all the other stuff I just talked about was in the warmer months of the year. And think about it, 55-degree water temperature and up, you want to follow that lower pressure, fish faster, cover more water, higher pressure when the water's 55 degrees and up as a slow down and fish. In the wintertime, you always have to fish slow. You really can't fish fast. But when the water temperature is below 55 degrees throughout the wintertime, late in the fall, early in the spring, that's a good time to fish, but you still have to fish slower. Now, what makes that fish's strike zone bigger? What appeals to them? Okay, like I said, if it's a big bass and it's a high pressure day, okay, if that water's over 55 degrees, it's bright and sunny, let's say his strike zone's small because he's wearing that 100-pound backpack, but he knows he needs to eat a big meal to sustain. A bigger bait will increase the strike zone of that bigger fish. But also on those high pressure days, you could still get a big fish with a smaller French fry style bait like the Ultra Hog here. You can still get that big fish on a high pressure day by finesse fishing. They don't want to run things down, but if you are going to get them to run something down, it's going to be big. It has to be worth the risk and the effort for them to exert that to go get it. But you can get those big fish by finesse fishing too. So if it's a low pressure day, the water's over 55 degrees, just have it as a general rule of thumb. It's, you know, during the warmer months of the year, they are less likely, the big fish are less likely to eat a small bait instead of a big bait. So keep that in mind right there, all right? That's how to increase that strike zone. Also, you can catch a big fish on a French fry in the winter months. They don't like to move around a lot. They don't like to exert a lot of energy, but you need to fish slow, and you'll realize too, bass in the wintertime are schooled up, and I talked about this in the seminar. They're schooled up big. 2 out of 3 bass, I say roughly, is not an exact number. Nothing's exact in fishing, but 2 out of 3 bass tend to school up. So that being said, if you fish a small bait in the wintertime, you're more likely to catch everything that lives there. And when you do catch something, maybe you should pick up a bigger bait like a jig or a bigger drop shot worm and see if there is bigger bass right in that same spot that you can fish to, instead of going through there with a big bait or a reaction bait and you pass that school of bass because they didn't want to eat it. Start off small in the winter, start off finesse, and when you catch one, try everything you have at that point. So hopefully that clarifies the double whopper versus the French fry theory for you, and, you know, the strike zone of the fish. All right, the last thing I talked about in the seminar was the kill zone. The kill zone and a strike zone are different, okay? The kill zone is how a bass prefers to trap something. So let's take, for example, we're gonna start off with a middle of the water column bait, a jerk bait. We're fishing in 30 feet of water. There's not fish within the first 10 feet. There's not fish on the bottom, but we see fish suspended on the graph. What makes a bass eat something in the middle of the water column? When you just cast out and straight retrieve a jerkbait, and I did that on Friday on the tank, and I happened to catch a fish right when I said it, which is funny. If you cast out a jerkbait and straight retrieve it, the odds of them biting it are low, versus pausing it in the middle of the water column. We all know this. A jerkbait, they'll bite it at that point. Or a twitch and it stops, and it's a directional change. It looks wounded. It's making a directional change. That is their trap point. That's their kill point at that time. Or it stops and it looks wounded. They're going to react to it at that point and that's their kill zone. Way more often than it moving through the middle of the water column where it looks healthy, it doesn't look like an easy opportunity. Now, I want you to think about that same thing in regards to a topwater. It's a trap point. The surface is a trap point. They don't need a directional change on the surface. They can trap it on the surface. You ever see a bass, and I've even said the same thing in the seminar, where they plow through the surface, they don't land gracefully. It's like boom on their side. It is not graceful. They do not expect to go flying out of the surface. They expect to trap something against it and it be solid like everything else subsurface. When they trap something against a wall, when they trap something against the bottom, they expect to pin it there. They don't really expect to go flying out of the surface. So that being said, a topwater lure, this is why they hit them so aggressively. They're trying to pin it against the surface. This is why you'll rarely see a bass come after a buzzbait and just, whoop, just real gentle like. Now let's take this little Ned rig, for example, right here, a bottom rig. Think about this. How many gobies, how many crawfish have you seen just cruising along the bottom? They're always searching along the bottom. So the kill zone for a bass, the way more often kill zone, the strike point, is when something is directly on the bottom. This is why I'm constantly telling guys, get off the reel, because when you're reeling and dragging it, what tends to happen is your lure tends to come off a rock and swing. When it's swinging, instead of you just dragging it with the rod up, and when you feel it come over, give your rod some slack, it comes over a rock, it traces down. You are way more often in the strike point and in the kill zone, and in their strike zone at the same time if it's tracing the bottom and scouring and hunting across the bottom. For a bottom bait, they prefer to pin it there. Now, there's a contrary to this rule, is the drop shot. The drop shot sitting right there and the worm's staying in place. It looks wounded, that's their kill zone for that. So keep all this stuff in mind, guys. I hope this video helped you guys out. Let's go back to the show. All right, guys, we just finished the seminar. We're gonna do a bunch of meet and greet. This is all going up on my YouTube channel, guys. Not the technical seminar, I'm not breaking the rules. I'm gonna film that one separately. Say what's up, everybody. What's up? Yeah. All right, guys, we'll catch back up with you. All right, guys, I finished up my seminar and met up with a bunch of fans of the show. I'm taking off a little bit early today. I have to work for the next couple of weekends, so I want to spend some family time. Appreciate you guys watching the video. I caught a couple of big ones up on the tank. We'll see you next time, informativefisherman.com.